Hey guys, this is Jay, or some of you know me here on BH. This is part one of a two-part video response to the Joey Berry from YouTube. Some of you might know her as Warhammer Joey. She's been posting to several forums, including the Painted Dragon, which is the forum that I found her video blogs on first, and some others. She's a new Warhammer Fantasy Battle player, never done any miniatures gaming before, never done any model painting before, and she's learning from scratch. So she, in her first couple of videos, she's asked some questions, and this one is in response to painting faces, which is a question that she asked in her third video. So, Joey, if you're watching this, I thought that a video response would be simpler than trying to explain to you on the Painted Dragon, for example, how to do this. So you'll notice first thing that this is what I'm going to be using to paint her face, and it's not GW Paint. I've stopped using GW Paint. I use now what's called P3, which is Privateer Press's brand of paint. It's formulated very similar to the foundation paints, but there's a little bit more vivid color to the line. I do, however, use the Citadel washes. In this case, I'll be using Ogre and Flesh. Now, all of these paints, when mixed with water, work pretty much the same way as the GW paints do, and you can do the same things with the GW paints. And I'll try and give you equivalent paint names to GW as we go along. So one of your questions was about painting over black primer. Well, I think for a new painter, black is a very forgiving color, which, unlike white, where if you make a mistake or you leave a bit of the primer showing, you're going to be able to see it, because white stands out a lot better than black does. However, me personally, I paint, I don't really use black. If I have to do a model that has like a black armor or is mostly dark colors, I'll use a dark gray. But for the most part, I use gray tones, red, and white as my base primers. This model I'll be using today is a red. However, I do have a lot of experience painting over black. So what I would suggest doing is starting out with a red-brown color to give you some, to help give some color to the flesh tone first over the skin, and then start using your flesh tones. It should help conceal the black a little bit better. Alright, so let's start with the first step. So the first thing we're going to want to do is we're going to want to base her face with, I prefer to use a deeper flesh tone. This would be the equivalent of your Tolaran flesh, maybe mixed with a little bit of snakebite leather, which is the red-brown color that I would suggest using as a base coat over black. The first thing you want to do is you want to get a really good, solid coat of paint over the mini, over the face tone you want to play. You want it to be good, solid. You don't want to be able to see much through it. Later on, we're going to be painting with very thin layers, so that we want to see through the paint layers, but this one you want to get a good solid coverage. So I'll usually do 2 to 3 thin layers of flesh tone. I've already put the first layer on. I'm going to put another layer on now. So you want to look at the model and make sure you get all the areas. You want to paint just the entire face with your base color. Now you'll want to be careful, because sometimes there'll be a tuft of hair and then like ears or neck or something along those lines. In this case, she's got an ear back here. Don't worry about the hair, because we'll go over the hair afterwards. So we've got the base tone of our face. So the next step is a wash, and I'll be back in a second to explain the wash. Alright, the base coat is dried, and now we're going to move on to the wash. I'm using Citadel Ogre and Flesh Wash for this. You want to make sure your brush is good and saturated. Normally I would use a GW wash brush for this, but for the small area of the face, I don't think it's that effective. So what I'm going to do is I just want to apply an even layer of wash across the entirety of her face. Make sure you get all the little details, the neck, and down around. Now you want to be very careful because you don't really want to have excess wash pooling in the eye sockets and the mouth. You want to have, you're just trying to do basically a glaze here. So what this does is it creates natural shadow to the face and helps you define the face for later highlighting. If you look now, you can see you can see definition to the nose, the eyes, the mouth, where the ear is behind the hair here. If it focuses, and just you can see the face a lot better now. And if you were a basic painter and you didn't worry about highlighting, this could be a perfectly fine endpoint. I might suggest one layer highlight doing the eyes, but that's it, and that would be a simple painted face. However, we're going to go a little higher than this. I'll be back in a second once the wash is dry. Alright, now that the wash is dry, we're going to do the first level of highlight. So what I do is I take the base tone, I thin it out with water, just nice and thin. Normally I would use a different brush for this, but this brush will work. And I'm using, for this, Winsor Newton Series 7 miniature brushes. For this painting I'll be using a 2, a 1, and a 00 to paint the dots of the eyes. So what you want to do is you basically want to repaint over the whole face, but you want to leave the dark shadows created by the wash that define the features of the face. So what you want to do is you want to paint the cheek area, the brow, the tip of the nose, down the cheeks, over the top of the lips, the upper part of the face, above the eye, down the cheeks, down around the face, tip of the ear. You want to paint the ear, get down here into the neck a little bit, and that gives you the beginnings of her face. Alright, so now the next step is going to be to do the eyes. And the eyes are tricky. I'm still not the best at eyes, but I'll see what I can do to give you some tips and tricks. I'll be right back. Okay, so I'm back. So what we're going to do now is we're going to create the shadow for the eyes. So what I do is I will take a little bit of the base flesh tone, which is here, and I'll mix a darker color in. Usually I'll use a dark brown. In this case, I'm going to be using a little bit of black. So you just want a very little bit of this darker color. So basically what we're doing is we're creating a shadow tone around the eye. So that's not quite enough. We're also going to want to mix a little bit of water into this, thin it down nicely. Normally, once again, I'd be using a mixing brush for this, but all I have is this brush right this second. So we've created a sort of a nice mixed tone. Okay, so what we want to do is we're going to take a little bit of our shadow tone, and we want to apply it to her eyes. And don't worry if you go out of the lines here. The reason why I use the base tone straight to do this is because I can always take the base tone and fix any mistakes that I make while painting the eyes. So what you want to do when you want to paint the eyes is, since both sides of a human eye come to a point, you want to use the tip of the brush and paint from the inside to the center of the eye, inside to the center of the eye, flip them all around, paint from the inside to the center of the eye, and the inside to the center of the eye. So what that does is it creates a natural shadow for the eyes. And it creates some depth. So once that dry, I'll come back and I'm going to paint in the pupil of the eye. Okay guys, Jay here again. So the shadow is dried. So now what we're going to do is you want to take your white color. I'm actually using a little bit of an off-white color. And we want to paint her eyes. We're going to paint the pupils of her eyes. And what you're trying to do is we're trying to paint inside the shadow. Yes, this is very difficult. This is where I struggle too. And what you want to do is you're going to want to paint from the outside, basically from the corners inward on both sides. So we'll do that one and then that one, and then we'll flip her over and go the other way. So I've switched to a #1 brush for this. I'm almost thinking I should be using my 00, but alright. So we're just going to go from the corner in, and then on her other eye. From the corner in, you want to flip her over, and then see if I can get this to focus. I'm going to go from the corner in, and then from the corner in. So we've painted the, and I want to touch this one up a little bit. We've painted from the corner in and left, as best we can, a little bit of the dark shadow around her eyes. Alright, so the next step is going to be actually painting the iris into the eye. And for that I'll be using my 00. I'll be right back. Okay guys, so we're back. I'm back. So now we're going to paint the iris into the pupil of the eye. So what we're going to want to do is we're going to take our brush and paint a line of black down the center of the pupil to create the iris. And you want to create the top shadow and the bottom. You want to connect the top and the bottom shadow. The reason we're doing this is because if you look at the real human eye, you see the iris of the eye, but you never see all of it unless you're afraid. So if you just dot the eye, if you want to paint fear, you dot the eye so because you see white on the top and the bottom. Normal human eyes, you don't. So we'll take some of my black paint. We'll get down just a little bit. Come on. Alright, so that's that one. So here's the other eye. And we're just going to put a black line down the center of the eye. Now you want to be careful and make sure that they're both roughly in the same place, or else your eyes will look a little weird. So you can see I actually went over a little bit on the eye. So now what we're going to do is we're going to take a little bit of the original flesh tone, which I still have wet on my palette, and touch up around the eye. So I'm just going to paint very lightly to sort of touch up around the shadow. Same thing on this side. There we go. We have painted eyes. Sometimes it'll take a couple layers to hide the shadow all the way. There you go. Painted eyes. So now we'll get into highlighting the face. I'll be back in just a moment. Hey guys, Jay here. So we're going to start highlighting the actual flesh tone of the face. So what I'm using is a mix of the dark flesh tone base color that we used and a mid-tone flesh. So this could be the equivalent of mixing like dwarf and elf flesh together, dwarf and Tolarian flesh together, etc. So what we're going to do is we want to thin our flesh tone down a lot because we're going to want to be able to see the darker color through. So what you're going to do is you're going to want to paint, you're going to highlight the upper areas of the face. So like the top of the lower lip, the bottom of the chin, the cheekbones underneath the face, the bridge of the nose, etc. So start with the lower lip, the chin, a little bit of the bottom cheekbone, the bridge of the nose. You want to be careful not to damage your eyes. It's alright to go down a little bit below the cheekbone because we're trying to create the first layer of highlight, and we'll do higher layers of highlight later on the upper parts of the cheekbone, the face underneath the nose. Basically, you're just trying to create contrast between the base color, the washed shadow, and the upper layers of the face. So that's the first level. So the next level will be a pure mid flesh tone. Alright guys, so we're back. So the next layer, we're going to take our mid flesh tone, which has been thinned way down. You just want a little bit of it. Once again, we're going to highlight areas like the bridge of the nose, just the upper part of the cheekbone now, under the face. Careful of the eyes. The top of the bottom lip, bottom of the chin, a little bit of the cheekbone, alright, so there's that level. So one more level to go. And we'll be done with well, one more level and then some glazing and we'll be done with the face. Okay guys, so I'm back for the last level, highlight the face. So what we want to do now is you want to mix more of your light flesh tone, which would be elf flesh in the case of GW, into the mix. I don't like to ever use pure elf flesh unless you're going for really pale skin. In this case, I've just mixed a little bit more into the mix. So now what we're going to be doing is we're just going to be highlighting just the highest areas of the face. So the very tip of the bridge of the nose, the very top of the lip, the very tip of the chin, a couple of lines on the cheekbones. And that's it. We've finished the face. Now, something that I like to do, which you don't have to do, is to glaze the lips with a little bit of, I use ball red. When I say glaze, I mean just taking very little of it, enough so that as soon as you apply it, it immediately dries, and just to create a little bit of a tonal difference to the lips of the face. I'm going to do that, and then I'll be back for the final take of the face. Be right back, guys. Okay, guys, so I added a little bit of glaze to the mouth. I ended up using ogre flesh instead of ball red because that's what I had at hand. It was actually what we used for the shadow, so it worked out just fine. So there we go. There's our finished face. Hope you learned something. Now, for me, I probably would go back in and do a couple more blend layers. But for a basic face, this looks pretty good. Alright, let me know if you have any questions. Hey guys, Jay here, or here on BH, as some of you know me. Today we're going to talk about scraping mold lines. So I have here a pair of Space Wolf Space Marine legs from my bits box, and as you can see, it has a very defined mold line running all the way down the side of the leg. So what you want to do is you want to take your X-Acto knife and put it perpendicular to the Mini, and then you want to tilt it down just a bit, and then you pull the blade down across the area where the mold line is, and that'll pull small bits of plastic off of the Mini to create a smooth surface. And now you can use a file or a box cutter or a scalpel. I use a slightly dull, well in this case a very dull X-Acto knife blade. So what you want to do is you want to create leverage. You never want to pull the blade directly towards your thumb, especially if you're using a sharp blade. So I put the back edge to my thumb, put my thumb underneath, the tip of my thumb underneath what I'm going to be pulling down on, and then I pull the blade down across the Mini and scrape very thin layers of plastic off. So I've already done this side in a previous attempt to this version, but just to show you again, you just want to scrape lines. So sometimes you'll come across cuts where you cut the Mini off the sprue. So what I usually do, and should be one of the reasons I use a dull blade, is I'll actually cut the tip off and then scrape the surface clean. There you go. That's scraping mold lines off a plastic Mini.